Hi, I wanted to talk a little bit about history of education. I'm going to explain some of the learning goals for the course as well as some of the basic assignments. You can feel free to ask me questions. You can email me or you can text me. My phone number is in the syllabus. This course is about thinking historically about American education, and it allows us to see who at different moments has counted as the public and what social forces, people, and ideas have shaped the systems that many of us take for granted. The course is roughly organized chronologically to give a sense of how different notions of how best to educate and also who merits educational access have emerged over time. We're going to cover the colonial period, the early republic, the common school movement, the progressive era, the civil rights movement, and the mid-century educational reforms that helped shape federal involvement in public education. Each week, we're going to read from our shared textbook. So there's one required book. It's Urban and Wagner's American Education, A History, to give us a broad sense of what was happening in the history of education. I will post a lecture to contextualize everything for you. We're also going to be reading book chapters and journal articles to supplement the core text. We're going to read these texts critically, examining the author's use of source material and arguments and conclusions. In addition to the textbook and supplementary readings, each week we're going to include a primary source from the period under investigation, and you're going to come up with a historical hypothesis in order to bring new knowledge to bear on authentic source materials. The goals of the course revolve around thinking chronologically about educational thought and reform, developing an understanding and ability to evaluate historical documents. So this includes not only an ability to situate documents in their historical context, but also an ability to understand how to use different types of sources. You're also going to develop an ability to read historical writing and to analyze the conclusions of different authors who draw on and make use of different sources. And the last thing that I'm hoping that you're going to take from this course is you're going to be learning how to engage in historical research, in this case, in a digital context, but in previous terms, we've looked at archival material. You're going to locate different sources, you're going to analyze them, and you're going to come up with a synthetic project at the end. In order to do that, I'm going to now talk a little bit about some of the assignments and some of the course expectations. I want to talk about my expectations for this course. Clearly, this is not the course that you signed up for when you did pre-enrollment. And we're going to do the best we can to create a space where we can come together and talk about ideas in the midst of a lot of crazy stuff that's happening. We will not be having a regular course meeting. You're going to work at your own pace and submit assignments each week. I'm going to be flexible with deadlines, and we will reassess the workload and assignments at the end of the first 2 weeks. We're both doing the best we can, right? I will have virtual office hours during our class time. You can call me or text me with questions, comments, or concerns. You can also email me. Let me know what I can do to make this better class for you. I have never taught online before. I am doing the best I can to retain the intellectual rigor of the course while also acknowledging that we are in the midst of a global pandemic and it's really hard to be productive. I'm adjusting my expectations and my desires about my own work. I'm supremely distracted. I'm worried about my family and my friends on the East Coast. I'm worried about my family and friends here in the Midwest. I'm worried about the Knox community. I'm worried about vulnerable and oppressed people across the United States and the world who don't get the luxury of working from home. And I'm getting really tired of people telling me that Shakespeare wrote King Lear while he was in quarantine from the plague. But there is solace in having a routine and in thinking about ideas. So I'd like to do this course together. And I hope that you can help me make it the best that we can possibly make it, even though it's not the course that we signed up for. I'd like to talk about the assignments for the course. You'll be graded on class participation, the midterm exam, and the final assignment, which is the newspaper assignment. For class participation, you get 10 points for historical hypothesis, 10 points for your Slack posts, 10 points for your Slack comments. For the midterm, you get 20 points for the take-home timeline midterm, which I'll explain more, which is due on April 4th. And then for the final assignment, which is 50% of your grade, you'll get 10 points for identifying a topic, 10 points for locating and analyzing 3 primary sources, and then 30 points for creating a newspaper using the documents to guide you, and that is due May 31st. Since we're going to be engaging in asynchronous learning, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm envisioning each week that we have together going. So I'm thinking that each week will go something like this. On Sundays by 11:59, you're going to complete something called the historical hypothesis assignment. We're going to be starting with colonial education on April 12th, so you don't have it for the first 2 weeks. I've actually included a video of how to do the assignment. But basically, I'll provide a primary source, and you'll make some educated guesses about it in a Google form, and then I'll grade it. There are 2 questions. What do you notice about the document? And then how does this document connect to broader themes in US history? Your response should probably be around 100 words per question. On Mondays, so this is, Sunday into Monday, by noon, I'm going to post a brief lecture intro to the topic we're studying. I'll post the lecture on Google Classroom, and it will link to our YouTube channel. You can comment on it on YouTube, or you can ask general questions on Slack under the hashtag WTF. I will provide a reading guide for the week with guiding questions and a small learning activity, although I won't formally be grading that. By Wednesday, you should have completed the readings for the week, and generally you'll have a textbook article or 1 or 2 peer-reviewed articles. And I have links about how to actually do these readings. On Wednesdays by midnight, you're going to post 150 to 200 word response to the reading guide and learning activity on Slack. These answers should have details, they should have examples, they should be something that people could actually engage with you on. So they should have some sort of meat to them. And then by Friday, you're going to go into Slack and comment on one of your classmates' posts. And this won't be happening for the first week. So you're going to start this on April 8th, and then you'll comment on one of your classmates' posts by April 10th. I'm changing that. We're going to have 2 larger assignments, a midterm and a final, but you don't need to worry about those right now. To give you a sense of how you'll be graded, I'm going to just grade everything based on a 10-point rubric, with 10 being the highest and 2 being the lowest. And then to just give you a sense of where we're going in the course, we're going to start off with this idea of, what is history? What is education? Introduction to the discipline a little bit before we go into thinking about education in the Americas before the European invasion. We'll then be talking about colonial education, thinking about the establishment of common schools in the 1800s. We'll be thinking about Reconstruction and settler colonialism in the US, the progressive reforms in the late 1800s, the impact of the Great Depression and World War II, and then finally we'll be talking about Brown versus Board of Education, school desegregation, and the way in which the federal government has increasingly become involved in education. Each week, you will have 3 kinds of pieces. This is how I divided the syllabus up. So you will have a thing to watch, a thing to read, and a thing to do. So that's how I've kind of created this to give you a pattern of what you need to be doing. If you have questions about this, let me know, but it should be pretty clear in here based on the dates. I will be posting this syllabus online. I will also be editing it if we get ahead or behind or whatever. So just keep a look at it, but also just check Google Classroom because I will be using that to get in touch with